Access Point to Washington, I'm Ayesha Tanzeem. When Pakistanis hear of all the economic trouble in Greece, the austerity measures, the protests, it doesn't always occur to them that the troubles may be affecting their fellow countrymen. But they are, in a big way. How and why? Joy Wagner explains in this report.
Greece, an economically troubled country hanging by the thread of an EU loan, has also been the main entry point to Europe for illegal immigrants for the last few years. A majority of them cross the border from Turkey to Greece, from Asian and Middle Eastern countries like Syria, Afghanistan, and Pakistan, in the hopes of a better future in Europe. According to estimates by the Pakistani embassy in Greece, there may be up to 125,000 Pakistanis in Greece, almost 50% of them illegal. As the economic situation in Greece worsens and youth unemployment surges to over 50%, xenophobia is on the rise, and the Pakistanis, just like the other immigrant groups, face anti-immigrant violence, beatings, stabbings, and destruction of their property. This, as members of the right-wing party Golden Dawn take to the streets, protesting the presence of the growing immigrant community. Joy Wagner, VOA News, Washington.
And to talk about this issue, joining us via Skype from Lancaster University in UK is Professor Aristotle Kallis. He's an expert on extremism, fascism, and mass violence. Also joining us on Skype is Sofia Tipaldou, a PhD candidate on political sociology at the Autonomous University of Barcelona. On the phone from Greece, we have Mr. Javed Aslam will join us in a little bit. He's the former president of Pakistan Community Ittihad Greece. But already on the phone with us is Mr. Syed Mohammad Jamil. He's the president of Pan-Hellenic Cultural and Welfare Society. Welcome to all of you. Mr. Jamil, let me start with you, since you're sitting in right there in Greece. This violence that we're talking about, we're not talking about once a month or once in a blue moon incident. What exactly is going on there? How often and what kind of violence?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for this conversation and giving us a chance to promote and to highlight our very, very serious problem. Pakistan community from last 2 years, when this Golden Dawn existing in the Greek society, every day, every day, every night, they are beating our Pakistanis, and they are entering in our houses, on the streets, on the park, even a lot of incident on the bus traveling. They stop the bus, they enter the bus, and they find the Pakistanis, and they are starting beating in front of Greek peoples there. So this element is very, very dangerous, and for our Pakistani community, I don't know, they are targeting only Pakistani from last 2 years. Before there was Afghanis and Bangladeshis, but now especially only Pakistanis.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to UK. Professor, you just heard the gentleman saying they're targeting just Pakistanis, but we've heard news reports that they're also targeting Bangladeshis, Afghans. My guess is that most, if not all, immigrant communities are targeted. Is it just economy, or are there other factors at play here?
Hello from the UK. Thank you very much for having me on the program. You are right. It's, of course, the economic crisis is very important. I should say that it is a general phenomenon. It has affected a lot of immigrant communities in Greece, particularly in the last 2 to 3 years. The situation is rapidly deteriorating in the last 12 months, I have to say. What is important to note here is that I heard your other speaker with a lot of interest, and I have a lot of respect in the sense that I am not there at the receiving end of this process, and that's very, very important to note. People from Pakistan or Bangladesh or Afghanistan living in Greece have got a dual burden. On the one hand, they are immigrants, which already puts them in the target of Greek communities. Don in particular. On the other hand, has been a rapid rise of Islamophobia in Greece in the last years. So in that respect, they're actually being targeted in two respects. And it is the economy. Of course, the economy never helps. The economic crisis has increased competition. And by competition, I mean not just the real competition, but also the perception of a competition among among the Greeks. The idea that there are fewer jobs, and for these jobs, people have to compete much more against other people. But it's not the economy. We have to make that very, very clear. The economic crisis brought to the fore deeper tensions within Greek society and deeper beliefs, including very, very strong racist beliefs, but also prejudice against particular groups and communities. So the economic crisis certainly didn't help, and if you like, gave the license for all these views to come to the fore. But the problem goes a few decades back. It is a problem that has deep roots in Greek nationalism and the construction of Greek national identity.
Thank you, and I'd like to bring Sofia, you into the picture and say, this is not a Greek phenomenon. We've seen it in societies around the world when economy tanks, anti-immigrant violence increases, racism increases, xenophobia increases, some more, some less. What is it that leads some societies to go that way more and some less, and how should societies handle this? Sofia, can you hear me?
Yes. Can you please repeat the question, because I have some connection problems.
Okay, let me repeat the question. What I was saying was that this is not just a Greek phenomena. We have seen it in other countries as well, with economies rise and fall, racism increases or decreases. How should societies handle this?
Yeah, you're right on this, that the tendency is that when economic problems occur and during economic crisis, then in the European Union, at least, the far-right parties are on a rise. But we have also countries like Spain, for example, where the crisis hit and far-right parties are totally absent. So yes, on the one side, it is the economic crisis. On the other side, it's not only that. And here I want to draw your attention on also social cultural issues, which might be the difference of the Greek case. One would be that now, like the Greek crisis has stabilized after like 3 or 4 years, and now the Greek population is expressing their status of anxiety, whereas the Spanish people have not yet been into that. Anyway, I think that the people are basically disappointed in the Greek case from their elites, from the political elites, and they are expressing their frustration with the vote on the radical right.
On the radical. Okay, Sofia, we'll come back to you. Your connection is also not very good. Somehow we're hearing you, you're breaking up, and I'll ask my producers to maybe try and connect with you again or fix the problem, but we'll definitely come back to you. In the meantime, our other guest, Mr. Javed Aslam, has joined us over the phone. Mr. Aslam, thank you so much for taking out the time. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
What I want to ask you is, you've lived in Greece for a while. This violence against the immigrant communities, and particularly the Pakistani community, it's not always been there. Can you tell us when you started seeing the change, and what do you think led to it?
This fascism and racism start before 3 years and very high from last 2 years. And only the last 8 months, around about 600 to 700 people was beaten, and openly in front of the police, in front of the public, inside the buses, because they are poor. They cannot go in police station, because in front of the police, when they are going to beat the workers, immigrant workers, the police is not going to take any action. And after, when they are going to make police report, many times this is so much difficult when one person is going in police station and he wants to take one police report. And after, when they are going to inform us, when they are going to inform the political parties, when the elected member of parliament and we are going there with big efforts, then this is possible to make one police sport. And many, many times inside the police stations, after inside the courts, the prosecutors, the judges, if they belong with this golden dawn.
So basically what you're saying is that the police, the system, the prosecutors are complicit with this. Professor Kallis, I want to bring you into this mix. Can we compare it to another society today or in recent history? I mean, what is it that's leading a whole system of a country that's known for its very open policies? Hold on, Mr. Javed. We have Professor Kallis on us online from Lancaster. I want to bring him in. Professor Kallis, what leads a system of a society that's known for its open policies and known for welcoming immigrants down that path?
What I would say is that what you just heard brings up a very important question to the fore, which is that the problem, of course, is the Golden Dawn, in the sense that the Golden Dawn is actively speaking, cultivating hatred against Pakistanis. At the same time, however, there is a much deeper problem here that goes to the heart of mainstream society. It's not just the extremists who are attacking immigrant communities in Greece. It's actually members, and sometimes very important members in terms of what the police is representing at the heart of the state. It's mainstream society that is not just, if you like, colluding with the Golden Dawn. It's not just that. It's that they're using the example of the Golden Dawn to actually liberate themselves and engage in actions such as we know, the police, but also in some cases even political parties and members of political parties have actually been engaging in all those acts. So it is important to continue the discussion about the Golden Dawn. The Golden Dawn is a terrible party, is a violent, unreformed, racist, Islamophobic party, and anti-Semitic, I should say, as well. But at the same time, we really should draw our attention to the fact that Greek society as a whole has been showing in the last 3 years, in particular in the last 12 months, failing reflexes to this danger. A lot of people, even if they don't vote for the Golden Dawn, are using their language. The whole debate has shifted to the level that the Golden Dawn wants us to have it. And the Greek state, if I may say that, is actually not helping in that respect. Just yesterday, it has decided to change a law with regard to immigrants and how immigrants are given votes with regard to local elections and so on and so forth. The timing is terrible, and I think the problem is much deeper than the Golden Dawn, even if the Golden Dawn is the one that is causing the most visible and physical violent damage to immigrant communities in Greece.
Okay, good. And we have Sofia Tipaldou back. I'd like to go to her, but we also have the reaction. We reached out to the Greek government, the Greek embassy in Washington. We have their reaction, and we want to go to their reaction. They sent us a very long, very detailed letter. We don't have time to read all of that, but they started out with saying that the Greek government, but also the Greek society, considers every incident of racist violence as an unacceptable criminal act and an assault on human dignity. They also said that in recent years, because of its geographical position in the southeastern frontiers of the European Union, Greece has become the main point of entry for illegal immigration. They quote 90%, having received for now hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants, most of whom crossed through Turkey. And they've also said a good example of Greece's continuing efforts to address these challenges is the recent decision by the Minister of Public Order, Nikos Dendias, to create a new unit within the Greek police force that would focus on tackling incidents of racist violence. The new squad will start its operations with offices in Athens and Thessaloniki. Sofia, I want to come to you. Does this explanation satisfy you? And also in this time when Greece's economy is almost failing, I mean, if EU doesn't give them the loan within a week or so, they're already selling their bonds, they're shutting down. What can the Greek government do?
No, this explanation does not satisfy me. It is definitely not the way to fight against this kind of phenomenon of xenophobia. I would totally agree with Professor Kallis. I follow his argument, and I would also like to add something on this, that it is not only the mainstream society and the police who is backing the Golden Dawn, also the media it has an important part on it. And ever since 2008, the media is presenting the immigrants as the national threat number one, actually, for Greece. On the other side, they're not excused of the violence of the native Greek population against the immigrants. So at the same time, from 2008 on, we have an increase in the xenophobic rhetoric of mainstream politicians, and this is not accidental that in 2012 we had the rise of the Golden Dawn, the entrance of the Golden Dawn in the parliament with a 7% instead of a 0.30 in 2009.
So you think the problem's more widespread? Both you and the professor agree. Let me come back to the Pakistani community in particular, the two Pakistani guests. I want to go to both of them. Mr. Jamil, I want to ask you, do you think the Pakistani community, you mentioned in the beginning they're getting attacked more. Do you think the Pakistani community is more vulnerable than other communities, and if so, why?
Because is the oldest community in Greece from last 45 years. They are peacefully hard worker and never gave any chance to any Greek community or officials for any kind of crime or illegal things. But now they are also the major factor is that the strongest Muslim community and well-organized community in Greece other than South Asian communities. So that's why they're afraid. As Mr. Professor mentioned, I agree with him, but I am not satisfied with the arguments of the Greek embassy or Greek government. Although this public order minister working very hard, but I don't think so. They don't have, due to economical crisis, they don't have funds. They don't have, the major instruments, force to develop against this Golden Dawn. Unless UN or European Union, through your program, we request and approach and appeal to pressurize the Greek government to control these things, because as Mr. Javed Aslam, he is working from last many years, working very hard against these things. But the problem is that otherwise we cannot control the elements in our communities, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Afghani, the reaction, it will be too late, and we are controlling.
So basically you're saying that, it'll become difficult. There will be a reaction. Mr. Javed Aslam, I want to bring you in. You represent a Pakistani group, a very organized group there. Tell me if you feel your community is more vulnerable than others, and what are you guys doing to counter this?
Because you are going to ask the other question from my brother Syed Jamil, and I am going to answer you. Because only Pakistan community in Greece, they are going to make demonstrations, they are going to make, to organize in every areas the things to take their rights, to stop these fascist attacks. And that's why when they are see only this community, only these workers and these persons are going to stop our attacks, and that's why they want to make more and more to beat us, to stop us, to don't make our voice on the with the government responsible persons, and that's why they are going to do this. But thanks God, because of Pakistan community is very well organized, and that's why we are carry on. We have to carry on. The professors, the other persons, everybody. I am going to ask if the embassy of Greek are going to say we are considering even one single, then I am going to ask if they are going to give attention to even one single person, then 1,000 persons are beaten, broken legs and broken hands, and going to die in hospitals. Why the fascists are not in jail?
1,000. Okay, you said, Mr. Aslam, you
arrested?
said 1,000 people in how long?
1,000 people.
1,000 in 1 month, in 1 year, for how long?
In 1 year.
In 1 year. In the last 1 year, 1,000 people have been beaten
And
up.
how much fascists are in jail?
Okay.
How much fascists in front of the police they are arrested?
Okay.
And why and how they are going to deal with them?
Thank you very much, and I understand your sentiment. Since you mentioned the embassy in Greece, I think you were referring to the Pakistani embassy in Greece. We also reached out to the Pakistan's ambassador there. He couldn't join us live during the show, but we did talk to him ahead of time. We asked him what the embassy was doing. Let's take a look, and actually let's listen to what he had to tell us.
When a Pakistani is attacked, if he is illegal, he doesn't go to report to the police station. Knowing his status, he knows that he will be arrested instead of their filing a report because he has no documents, he is illegal. Now, when they do report, those who are legal, they do not bring copies of the FIR to us. I have had meetings with the leaders of the Pakistani community. They have been coming on their own also to visit me. And my only request to them was, for God's sake, bring me copies of the FIRs so that I can take up the issue with the authorities concerned and confront them that these FIRs have been lodged and no action has been taken by the police.
And we've heard those reports too. But here's my question to you. We have talked to some of the people in the Pakistani community, and they're complaining that the embassy never talks to the victims, that the embassy is not accessible when they need them.
The point is, the embassy is open. I am talking to you, and I have an open door policy. Anybody who wants to come and see me, I have never closed my door to him. Everybody wants to bypass the queue. Everybody wants priority treatment. We cannot offer that to 100,000 Pakistanis. So far as your initial question was concerned, I have had meetings with everybody in Athens who is willing to listen to me. I have had meetings with the Ministry of Public Order and Citizen Protection. Even yesterday I had a meeting with the Deputy Foreign Minister. I have had meetings with the police. I have had meetings with, you name it, with everybody.
And what's the response you get?
The first thing is, most of them have told me that, okay, you are complaining against the police not taking any action on the FIRs. Bring us copies of the FIRs, and we will sort the police stations out. Now, I said earlier that not one of these leaders has brought me copies of the FIRs.
But let's forget about the leaders for a while. If there are 100,000 Pakistanis that are living in Greece, and some of them are being attacked, and we've been able to find, sitting in Washington over the internet and YouTube and local channels, instances and specific names, and they're even on YouTube, Pakistanis with their names and their stories, why can't the embassy find them?
We do find them. We take action. You see, you can't expect the embassy to go to each and every police station. We take up the case with the Foreign Office. That is the proper way of handling things. We take up these matters with the police authorities. We take up these matters with the Ministry of Citizen Protection and Public Order, which we are doing.
So, Mr. Jamil, I want to come to you. Why isn't the Pakistani community taking these FIRs to the ambassador when, according to him, he's asking time and time again?
Well, we respect our ambassador here, His Excellency, but somehow he is right. But the problem is that we are Pakistani representatives. We took these kind of complaints, which they are legal, registered. He's right that illegal people, they cannot go to make a FIR. And now, from last 1-2 years, before it was free of charge, the complaint in the police stations. But from last 2 years, they make €100 fees. You must pay there to the tax office, and then they will file your FIR. This is the big problem. Even legal immigrants, they don't have, due to economic crisis, to beaten by fascism.
So what you're saying is that there are no legal FIRs registered by the Pakistani community. The 1,000 attacks that Mr. Javed Aslam talked about, not a single FIR.
No. There are some, as Mr. Javed told you, that only that FIR is registered if some member of parliament or some NGOs go with them, and then they succeed. Very few FIRs, and that FIR, the Minister of Public Order, he knows, the Foreign Office, they knows, but still we are waiting for their actions.
So you're waiting for action. Let me come to you, Professor Kallis in Lancaster. What does a community do when they cannot even get their police report in? What are their avenues? What are the possibilities?
It is a very difficult situation, and I sympathize very, very strongly. I think that the current climate with the Greek state, and I'm not going to put it down to a particular Greek government, although the current government has a much harsher anti-immigration policy. It's a general systemic thing. It's very difficult to break that wall of silence, and if you like, to some extent, complicity. I am aware of how difficult it is. I have friends and colleagues who are working with NGOs in Greece, human rights NGOs, and the people I've spoken to and their friends who have spoken to me have spoken of a constant atmosphere of fear and intimidation, not necessarily by official Greek authorities, but unofficially by police officials and so on and so forth. It's a very difficult situation, and it's very difficult for me to give advice when I am actually sitting a few thousand miles away from where the problem really lies. But what I would say in all those circumstances, the worst thing that could happen to a community is to retreat from public life. Pakistanis, as well as all other immigrant groups in Greece, should remain and should participate in that public life, even if this means that they are exposed to potential attacks from the extremists. I also think that all the protestations that have been made through the official channels should continue. The media in Greece have made a decision, and I don't know whether it's a conscious decision. It could be. I don't want to, but I fear it may be, to relegate news about the abuse of immigrant communities in Greece, individual events, individual incidents, to page 5 or 6, or to the second page of the website or whatever. There is a general culture of not paying particular attention to these things. We, all of us, mostly, firstly, the people who are affected by this and living there, but also all of us who care about human rights, whether Greeks or not Greeks, should continue to press on, should hold the Greek government to account, should hold the Greek police to account, should work with NGO organizations to expose all those cases where not just the Golden Dawn, and I repeat this one, it's not just the fascists here. The fascists are thankfully a small group in Greek society. But what about into inverted commas or not decent mainstream Greek citizens who on an everyday basis verbally abuse migrant groups, sometimes even physically assault them, write their opinions? The situation is absolutely appalling. We should take that into account, but we should continue to work with the groups.
Okay, so let me come to you, Mr. Javed Aslam, and what I want to ask you is, we've talked in general, but we're coming towards the end of the show. Tell me, how bad are the Pakistanis they're feeling? Are they talking about going back? Have you heard families talk about they want to go back home? And, you know, how's that working out for them?
Every immigrant worker, when he's going to his job early in the morning, he's thinking, maybe I will not come back to my home safely. If he's going to in supermarket, in mini market to buy some things, he's in fear and he's looking behind, looking front.
Have people left Greece to go back to Pakistan? How many people have left Greece to go back to Pakistan?
From 60,000 Pakistanis, around about 20,000 Pakistanis has leave from Greece.
Okay. And are a lot of other people talking about leaving?
Every second person is going to talk about to leave, to how he has to change, because he's worker,
yes,
and he has to worry about his work.
Okay, well,
especially I want to say the last, if something, the Greek peoples are not racism. They are very good people.
And you guys, and I have to wrap. I'm sorry, my time is up, but I want to thank you guys. We'll pick up this topic again. It's very important, but I'll thank my guests for joining us, and thank you for watching. Please leave your comments on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Ayesha Tanzeem or Access Point. Both are there. Leave your comments. We'll look out for them. Goodbye. Access Point to Washington, I'm Ayesha Tanzeem. When Pakistanis hear of all the economic trouble in Greece, the austerity measures, the protests, it doesn't always occur to them that the troubles may be affecting their fellow countrymen. But they are, in a big way. How and why? Joy Wagner explains in this report.
Greece, an economically troubled country hanging by the thread of an EU loan, has also been the main entry point to Europe for illegal immigrants for the last few years. A majority of them cross the border from Turkey to Greece, from Asian and Middle Eastern countries like Syria, Afghanistan, and Pakistan, in the hopes of a better future in Europe. According to estimates by the Pakistani embassy in Greece, there may be up to 125,000 Pakistanis in Greece, almost 50% of them illegal. As the economic situation in Greece worsens and
it is a general phenomenon. It has affected a lot of immigrant communities in Greece, particularly in the last 2 to 3 years. The situation is rapidly deteriorating in the last 12 months, I have to say. What is important to note here is that I heard your other speaker with a lot of interest, and I have a lot of respect in the sense that I am not there at the receiving end of this process, and that's very, very important to note. People from Pakistan or Bangladesh or Afghanistan living in Greece have got a dual burden. On the one hand, they are immigrants, which already puts them in the target of Greek communities. In particular. On the other hand, has been a rapid rise of Islamophobia in Greece in the last years. So in that respect, they're actually being targeted in two respects. And it is the economy. Of course, the economy never helps. The economic crisis has increased competition.
Jamil, let me start with you, since you're sitting in right there in Greece. This violence that we're talking about, we're not talking about once a month or once in a blue moon incident. What exactly is going on there? How often and what kind of violence?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for this conversation and giving us a chance to promote and to highlight our very, very serious problem. Pakistan community from last 2 years, when this golden dawn existing in the Greek society, every day, every night, they are beating our Pakistanis, and they are forcing entering in our houses, on the streets, on the park, even a lot of incident on the bus. Traveling this.
Youth unemployment surges to over 50%, xenophobia is on the rise, and the Pakistanis, just like the other immigrant groups, face anti-immigrant violence, beatings, stabbings, and destruction of their property. This as members of the right-wing party Golden Dawn take to the streets, protesting the presence of the growing immigrant community. Joy Wagner, VOA News, Washington.
And to talk about this issue, joining us via Skype from Lancaster University in UK is Professor Aristotle Kallis. He's an expert on extremism, fascism, and mass violence. Also joining us on Skype is Sofia Tipaldou, a PhD candidate on political sociology at the Autonomous University of Barcelona. On the phone from Greece, we have Mr. Javed Aslam will join us in a little bit. He's the former president of Pakistan Community Ittihad Greece. But already on the phone with us is Mr. Syed Muhammad Jamil. He's the president of Pan-Hellenic Cultural and Welfare Society. Welcome to all of you. Mr.
Stop the bus. They enter the bus and they find the Pakistanis, and they are starting beating in front of Greek peoples there. So this element is very, very dangerous, and for our Pakistani community, I don't know, they are targeting only Pakistani from last 2 years. Before there was Afghanis and Bangladeshis, but now especially only Pakistanis.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to UK. Professor, you just heard the gentleman saying they're targeting just Pakistanis, but we've heard news reports that they're also targeting Bangladeshis, Afghans. My guess is that most, if not all, immigrant communities are targeted. Is it just economy, or are there other factors at play here?
Hello from the UK. Thank you very much for having me on the program. You are right. It's, of course, the economic crisis is very important. I should say that